seen. But from way up there, you see the vast, winding, majestic stretch of the river. Its traffic, its towns, its hills, its forests, a very different view of that massive waterway. Of course, we see our many situations and stresses differently when we take a different position and perspective, when we get a different view of them, when we can see more of the whole than the intensity of the rushing parts. That's the first thing. Second, even so, along with that overview, we need to be alert to the possible intrusion of little things that can make our life extremely stressful, and indeed they're very dangerous. The other day I was driving along in what I thought was uneventful traffic. I knew I needed to turn to move across into the left lane. I didn't realise that a small, invisible, dark green car had somehow slipped into my blind spot. Just in the split second before I reduced her car and mine to rubble, I saw her and changed my direction. That car was a symbol of what can happen to us. Some completely invisible, perhaps, unidentified stress can slip into our life space and cause us a lot of damage, a lot of harm. It can be just an airborne bug. We didn't see it, it happened. It can be a person pretending to be your friend. It can take many forms. How do we cope? We need to have some alertness to possible stressful and dangerous intrusions, toxins. We need to develop some sophisticated resistance resources so that our reaction is appropriate. And we need to reposition ourselves in relation to that invasive stress. Position, resources, direction. Change from the attack on the other to a quiet and quick self-negotiation. Thirdly, a great deal depends on whether you see the would-be stress as part of your immediate situation, or whether it is part of your overall world view. You see, if you see the world as a friendly place, that's one thing. But if you continually see it as a frightening place, that's a different world view. Our experiences, our philosophy, our politics can draft us into a very gloomy world view. Or we can see beyond the gloom to a vision of the goodness of the world. So do we swallow the propaganda of fear and evil, or do we uncover the goodness that is far better? One man said to me, I see terrible things looming up into the future. Well, he said it once, but he kept on saying it. It became his world view. Another man said, but I see great goodness and joy in the faces of millions of human beings, in the faces of millions of children. We need to join every resource to keep that goodness and joy expanding. The worldview. When I was in Budapest a few weeks ago, I walked across the Danube and then up the funicular and along to the left to the National Gallery. I wanted to see two paintings done by Michele Moncasi, done at the end of the 19th century. Well, I walked around the gallery back and forth, and I asked this guide and that guide, and they didn't know what I was talking about, and I thought, they've put these paintings into the archives. When around the corner I came on my last trip, and there they were. One is a huge painting of a herd of cattle grazing across streams and hillocks and gentle pastures. It is evening, and so the overall painting is overwhelmingly dark. until you crisscross your fingers in front of your eyes to get that three-dimensional view. And then you look at the painting and you see the sunset, the streams of light coming in from the sunset that transforms the whole darkness. These streams of light run right along the streams of the river. They run around the bushes. They light up one side of the cattle there, and the whole painting is immediately transformed. The other painting is of the crucifixion. The Golgotha hill depicted there is swathed in darkness, outdone by the huge boulders in black, amongst which there are those 3 crosses. There's nothing but darkness until you do the third-dimensional bit, and then you see the sun giving off shafts of light from the horizon that make you see at once that the destruction and the violence need not have the last word. Our worldview, even in our worst times, you see, can be changed. Allow just a little space between your fingers and the light pours through. One of the guides I discovered had been watching my antics for quite a long time, because I was there a long time. And she came up to me and she said in her stumbling, puzzled English, "These paintings must mean a lot to you." "Oh, yes, they do," I said. "They do. You can get a new worldview from such paintings. A worldview that says goodness and light can transcend ugliness and gloom. And we know that a positive, hopeful, goodness worldview is a major factor in coping better with our stresses. Yes, there's a fourth subtle stress is like the background noise of the traffic on the freeway. As I wandered through my park on a Saturday afternoon, even though the park is empty and quiet, you can pause and you hear the noise of the traffic on the freeway. Now, until you pause, you don't hear it. You're completely oblivious to it, day and night. But then it's always there. In different contexts, at home or at work, we live every day, often unaware of the background sounds, of the background stresses, of the background emotions. They're there. Some psychologists have written about the way background emotions can affect the unborn child.